concept of the white race, where it came from and for what reason, you know that it was a trick, and it's worked brilliantly. See, prior to the mid to late 1600s in the colonies of what would become the United States, there was no such thing as the white race. Those of us of European descent did not refer to ourselves by that term really ever before then. In fact, in the old countries of Europe, we had spent most of our time killing each other. We didn't love each other. We weren't one big happy family. You know, they from Scotland, hell, they didn't even worry about fighting people outside of Scotland. Highlanders and Lowlanders just fought the hell out of each other. So there was no white race, but in the colonies of what would become the United States, what did we see in the 1660s, 1670s? We began to see that Africans of indentured servant status, many of them not enslaved yet, they were not necessarily permanently enslaved. Some were, others were indentured like many poor Europeans for periods of 7 to 11 years. They could from slaves. Some were, others were indentured like many poor Europeans for periods of 7 to 11 years. They could work off their indenture and then they would be free labor technically. Realized, as did the white indentured servants, the Europeans who hadn't even been called white yet, that they had a lot of things in common, like the fact that they were all getting their clock cleaned by the elite. And so they would get together more than our history books taught us to foment rebellion against the elite, to try to get a better deal for themselves on the basis of economic necessity and economic justice. And what did the elite do? When you see that you're outnumbered by black and white folks who are penniless, landless, peasants, you have to do one of two things. You either have to kill them all, but you can't do that because who's going to work? Rich folks weren't going to. They had to get poor people to work. The whole point was to be a person of leisure back in those days. That was the goal, was not to work. So you couldn't kill them all. You didn't want to kill them all. You had to do the work yourself. You had to build your own levy. And what did the elite do? When you see that you're outnumbered by black and white folks, you couldn't kill them all. You didn't want to kill them all. You had to do the work yourself. You had to build your own levy, build your own house. No. Pick your own tobacco, harvest your own cotton. No, we're not going to do any of that. So you can't kill them, but you can co-opt them. And so the elite in Virginia, for example, in the colony, begins to give certain carrots to people of European descent, saying things like, you know, we're going to let you own a little leisure back in the day. Once you're free labor, you get 50 acres of land just because you're free labor, see? So we're going to cut you in on this deal. We're going to let you enter into contracts. We're going to let you testify in court. And here's the best of all, we're going to put you on the slave patrol to keep those people in line. Right? The idea was you're still going to get your clock clean. We still don't like you. We still aren't going to really empower you or things like you.
All guys like Cohen and Jimmy Iovine and others in that industry began to promote what we then later called gangster rap, where you're encouraging drug use, where you're glorifying drug use, where you're glorifying calling your women by demeaning name, where you're glorifying the N-word. And you're paying people millions of dollars for doing that.
Now it seems like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup, and
it's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing.
All guys.
Thing that's facing, our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because
don't you think that's hypocritical though? You're saying
it's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed.
If they were doing that to any other community, they would have been shut down in 2 minutes.
One of the biggest artists you ever had had a real bad drug problem, DMX.
I'm so sad. I got people to feed.
If they were doing that to any other...
Bakr II. He was Mansa Musa's brother and king of the Mali Empire. So how did Musa become king? On his legendary journey from Mali to Mecca, Mansa Musa crossed paths with Damascene historian Shihab al-Umari and told him how. The monarch who preceded me would not believe that it was impossible to discover the limits of the neighboring sea. He wished to know. He persisted in his plan. Mansa Abu Bakr II was an avid traveller and had roamed all around. Bakr II. He was Mansa Musa's brother and king of the Mali Empire. So how did Musa become king? On his legend, Abu Bakr II was an avid traveller and had roamed all around his vast empire before yearning to discover what lay beyond the Atlantic. So he called on engineers of the Lake Chad to build ships so he could launch a fleet across the ocean. He hired a crew of sailors, traders, builders, artists, warriors, and learned men, and supplied them with enough rations to last 2 years. He told them not to return until they reached the end of the ocean or until they had run out of food and water. But after a lone captain and only one of the ships from the 200 he had sent returned to Mali, claiming that the other ships had been pulled into a current and disappeared, Mansa Abu Bakr II began to prepare a fleet once more. But this time, the brave and adventurous king decided to make the journey himself, in 1311, almost 200 years before Columbus set foot on American shores. Just as Mansa Musa's journey, or adventurous king, decided to make the journey himself, in 1311, almost 200 years before Columbus set foot on American shores. Just as Mansa Musa's journey to Hajj was legendary, so was his brother's journey across the Atlantic. A great leader, Mansa Abu Bakr II travelled with his men on 1,000 ships and sent a further 1,000 ships with supplies, trade materials, crops, and animals, and of course gold, which was abundant in his kingdom. So did Mansa Abu Bakr II arrive in the Americas? We may never know, but there are many signs that West African Muslims did. Some of the strongest evidence comes from the pen of Columbus himself, who wrote in his journal that Native Americans confirmed black-skinned people had come from the southeast in boats, trading in gold-tipped spears. Not only were these spearheads described as guanine by Native Americans, which was the Mandinkan word for gold, the language of the Mali Empire, so did Mansa Abu Bakr II of the Mali Empire. But chemical analysis of those spearheads found that the gold most likely originated from West Africa. Columbus and his son also found that Native Americans had handkerchiefs like those used in West Africa, and clothes similar to the Muslim Moors of Spain. Whether or not Mansa Abu Bakr II himself made it to the lands beyond the Atlantic, we cannot deny that this courageous ruler of one of the richest and largest empires on earth gave up wealth and power in pursuit of knowledge of the Mali Empire. But
My goal is to spread knowledge and information about who we is as a people and the truth about what occurred to us as a people. This is my Facebook reel, just a portion of it. This is how I try to use social media, is to spread knowledge and truth to my people. I ask that you all who follow me or watch my videos do the same. Let's go back into educating ourselves about who we are as a people.